Hey everybody, welcome to Ultimate Insider, Bear Insiders Podcast. I am Mike Pawlawski, former Cal quarterback, 11-year pro, and Hall of Famer at the University of California. This week we are talking about a huge win versus Oregon State, a team that was on a track, was winning, was very successful, had a bunch of momentum built up, and the Bears put together what I think is their best overall performance, team performance, in the last several years. We know the defense has been really good for a long time, and the offense has been a work in progress. But this was both sides of the ball, defense, offense, and even special teams with a big pump block by Nick Alfton as well. So in terms of an overall game, a full team game, this is probably the best game I've seen by the Bears in years. And so it was a great win, especially with the start of the season. So I'm going to talk now kind of about being an athlete, being in that locker room, kind of what goes on. And you guys have heard me talk about it if you've listened to our podcast. And if you haven't, they're here on Bear Insider. You can go check them out. But as an athlete, there's a progression in terms of when you first get into a system, first thing you're trying to do is get the verbiage. Think about if you've ever learned a foreign language, how long it takes you to find the right words to start so that you can just be competent in that language, and then to get fluent in that language. So I'm not just communicating now, but I'm communicating my actual thoughts rather than searching and hunting and pecking for words. And then to become fully immersed in the language where you can speak natively in that language. And it takes a long time. Football is the same way, especially for young players or players coming in transferring from other systems. You may know what the words mean, just like you would know English if you were learning Italian, and you may know what the words translate into, but there's a process that it takes to get from, good morning to buongiorno. It's just, there's time that it takes for you to process that where it becomes completely natural in that language. And so I think this year with a young defense, with new guys across the board, you have a couple of key losses on defense. Coin Dang, a huge loss. Brett Johnson, a huge loss for this defense. And you have young guys trying to learn the system. And so I think defensively, these guys were trying to get fluent in the language, trying to get fluent in understanding kind of the feeling, the emotion, the whole piece of it as a team. And what you're seeing is as the seasons come along, as you're seeing guys become more natural in the football language of Cal football right now, what the verbiage means. And not that it's hugely complicated, but there's a lot of checks that go on. There's a lot of assignment issues that go on. And you have to be able to, not only know your assignment, but then know when you can cheat your assignment. Cal's secondary for so long was so good that they knew where they could cheat, where they couldn't cheat on their assignments. They knew when they could gamble, when they couldn't gamble. And oftentimes it's those gambles that are the huge plays. Elijah Hicks coming from the post safety to go make a pick on the sideline. Corners driving on routes in man-to-man coverage and not being worried about double moves. Those kind of things are the things that make teams good. And then when you can make them regularly, it makes teams great. And as a quarterback, it makes it really hard to throw against teams like that. I think as an offensive line, as an offense, Bill Musgrave, remember, came in just before the COVID season last year. And so didn't have time to install his offense the way that you would like. And then they played a abbreviated season, COVID scrimmage season, where they couldn't really install everything, do everything they wanted to do. And you can say limit the offense, learn it and execute the small things. That's fine, but you have to have your full package enabled to exploit what defenses are doing at the college level. You can't, even if you limit your package, you have to have plays. You have to have concepts in there that are packaged together so that you can attack teams. And if you don't have enough time to put the verbiage in, if you don't have enough time to rep it, and reps, Bill Musgrave calls them turns, taking turns at it, you have to, it's really hard to execute at a high level. And so it seems to me, as I watch this Oregon State game, and we're going to have to see if it continues, right? Does this continue going forward? I think defensively, Colorado into Oregon State, and going into Oregon State, the defense had only allowed 79 points in 4 Pac-12 games. So pretty good defensive showing, but I think this game was really, it was the first high-level execution game as a team against a high-level opponent. And they made the plays that they needed to make when the time came. Plus, you had some names that are new to the team. We've been talking about Marquez Bimage for the last couple weeks, but he made some huge plays on defense. You lose Cam Good, another huge loss for this defense. And Marquez Bimage steps up. The outside linebackers step up. Nate Rachina steps up. The linebackers. The DBs. You lose Colin Gamble early in the game versus Oregon State, and Isaiah Young steps up. And so you had some dudes fill in some roles, step up, and make plays. And that's what you have to do if you're going to win. It looks like they are becoming more fluent in the concepts, in the verbiage, in the execution, to the point where they can feel comfortable playing in that Cal language. And that's kind of the best analogy that I can make, is that if you've ever learned a new language, tried to learn a new language, and I think we all had to in high school, there's a point at which words and phrases and kind of the feeling behind it become natural. And I think that's where this Cal football team is at. It's taken a while to get there, and it does with young teams. But you keep coaching them hard, one play at a time, one rep at a time in practice, and eventually they get it. So that's my preamble. I got a chance to talk to Coach earlier, and we talked about all this, and it was a great interview. We got pretty in-depth, but here it is, my interview with Coach right now. Well, joining me once again, head coach Justin Wilcox, and winning always makes these podcasts easier. So this week, once again, I'll start with the open question. Tell me why you guys were so successful.
Yeah, great effort by all involved. The coaches did a fantastic job prepping the players, and the players ultimately go out and get it done. And we got a lot of respect for Oregon State. That's a good football team and a hard-fought victory. Really proud of the guys for the way they competed. Like we had in previous weeks, we just played a little bit better in certain areas. And offensively, really strong effort. We ran the ball, we threw the ball, we converted third downs. I thought red zone touchdowns were a huge part of it. And also really no penalties. We were never behind. The week prior, we had gotten some bad down and distances, but really good job by a number of guys on offense. Special teams, the block punt was huge. If you had to pick one play that seemed like it could have turned it, the momentum shift was significant there in that series. Great job by Nick Alfton. Great job by Charlie Regal dialing that up. And then defensively, it starts with the takeaways. The first play of the game, just an incredible effort by Marquez Bimage to take the ball away from the back, even to get himself in that position. I mean, playing off a block, getting rid of the guy, grabbing the back and taking the ball. Just a fantastic effort. The run defense as a whole was really pretty solid against a very good running offense. And then the interceptions, Nate Rachina comes up with another interception. Great effort by Isaiah Young, who came in with really hadn't played much at all, came in for Colin Gamble and played a very good football game. And then Elijah having another, I think 3 weeks in a row, Elijah's taking the ball away and made a great break out of the post on a go ball and got an interception to help us seal the game.
And it's always key. Like, it has to be every facet. Unless you just physically dominate a team, it has to be every facet. This game mirrored very much the Utah-Oregon State game the week before, and then it was kind of a battle back and forth. Obviously, you guys had the lead the whole time, but it was a battle. They were starting to run the ball, and the pump block, like you said, pump block, and then you come right away with sudden change and hit the big pass over the top. Talk about how that swings momentum in a game from the defensive side from Oregon State.
Yeah, huge. I mean, right at the end of the third quarter, and we had they had thrown the ball and had a little bit of success running it, in the second half. And then to get the stop, to force the punt, and then Nick to come up with the block was huge. And again, that's credit to Nick for his individual effort, but also Charlie Regal helping him, putting him in that position. And then I think it was very next play, great call and design by Bill and the offense, and then Trayvon and the O-line protecting, and then Trayvon running a great route and Chase putting it right on the money.
Yeah, so all that stuff has to come together. It's funny because you look back over the season and, first Pac-12 game, University of Washington, you guys are right in it till the end, but you don't make those 5 to 8 plays that we talk about, right? University of Oregon, you guys are right in it at the end. You don't make those plays. Colorado, obviously not the same opponent as those two or as Oregon State, but then you put together a full game. And I've got to say, having called every game for the last however many years, this is probably the best total team game that I've seen in 3 years. I mean, putting everything together back to maybe Mississippi State where everything was together, or excuse me, Ole Miss where everything was together. Like this was a really good total team game.
Yeah, I thought the team played very hard. We made plays on defense, taking the ball away, and against the run game. We could have defended the pass better. We could have pressured the quarterback better, we think. So there's definitely room for improvement there. Offensively, really good football game in terms of running and throwing. We had a couple missed opportunities on deep balls. But for the most part, I mean, you look at the identification, who we were blocking, getting on the right people, running hard, throwing and catching to the right guys. Chase was efficient in, decisions on where to go with the ball and the timing on the throws. And then he made a couple plays with his feet as well. So, offensively, I would, pretty safe to say that's our best effort this year and maybe in the last 3-5 years. And so we got to build on that. And there's still room for improvement. We're not arrived. And so we got to take pride that we're still improving late in the season.
Yeah, that's a huge point. There's always room for improvement, right? You look at game film, you're like, oh, I could have done this better, could have done that better. And so that's that. Before we get into the guys who really stood out, you've mentioned a couple of them here, Marquez Bimage and Isaiah Young, especially. But the guys who don't get a lot of love for plays, Bimage can't make that play if Josh Drayden isn't forced there, right? If he doesn't slow that back down to give Bimage the leverage to rip that ball out, can't make that play. Talk about some of those guys that maybe you don't see, like Isaiah Young's tip on the pick, right? Those things contribute in a big way. I think Josh Drayden has been kind of quietly in position most of the year. Yeah,
Josh Drayden's a good football player. He's played a lot for us, and there's a great example. It doesn't show up in the stats sheet, and people even watching the game, you notice the play by Marquez, which is an incredible effort. But without Josh getting off the block and slowing the back down, Marquez can't get there to make that play, and it's, Nate Druchenna makes an unbelievable diving interception. Great kind of Johnny on the spot, but we were in a kind of a matchup man concept there, and Isaiah Young, that's a hard play to make. He drives on a receiver on an in-breaking route when he doesn't have leverage on him to tip the ball, and now gives Nate the chance to intercept it. And offensively, you could look at the tight end play, the O-line for sure. I mean, with Cindric and that crew doing what they did to protect the quarterback and also move people in the run game. There's just that's how you play winning football, though. I mean, that's what it takes to win, is it takes those guys contributing to the ones that are making the big play. And we, as you mentioned before, we had some games where we didn't quite make enough of those, and we made 3 to 5 this game that really changed the course of how the game ended.
And it's those little plays that can be the difference maker in the game on the outside, right? The tertiary plays that you don't necessarily see, but they make a huge one. Let's talk about the guys now. Marquez Bimage, you guys lose Cam Good, arguably the most important player on the defense because of the way he's been playing, right? He affects everything when he's out there. Coming into this game, if you'd have told me they're going to lose Cam Good and then they're going to go out and play so well defensively against Oregon State, I would have laughed. But Marquez Bimage stepped up in a big way, and your outside linebacker crew stepped up in a big way.
Yeah, Marquez, he's new to our team this summer, and he keeps getting better and better and better. We're fortunate that he's here. We're glad he's here. He's a great teammate. I mean, the guy works extremely hard. He has really fit in well with our team and our team culture. It's been a pleasure having him. And then on field, you see week by week, the guy just gets better and better and better. He's hard to block. I mean, he's a powerful guy. And the example, first play of the game, he takes a big, strong tight end, throws him into the C gap, gets off the block, takes the ball from the running back. I mean, that is a dynamic, explosive play. There's not a lot of drills for that. I mean, you practice, you work on block protection and all that stuff, but Marquez has the ability to do more, and that's what he did. And he made that type of play. And so we're really glad that he's with us.
Yeah, it's a combination of block protection, pursuit, drill, and then strip the ball. Like these 3 different drills put together all in one effort.
Yeah.
And so he showed up, played well in this game. Isaiah Young, another guy who we haven't said his name. Colin Gamble goes down, and Isaiah Young has to step up. And he doesn't just make the one tip for the pick, but he makes a big play in the end zone. He made 4 different big plays in this game.
He did. That ton of credit to Isaiah. Colin Gamble, who's played better and better. In the last couple of weeks, Colin kind of quietly has played pretty dang good football. And what we expected him to do as a young guy that's continuing to get better. unfortunately went down. He had a big third down stop. He goes down. So Isaiah comes in, really hadn't played much. And to credit to Isaiah and his preparation to come in and make 4 really big plays in the game. I mean, he had a 0 coverage pass breakup, which is hard to do down in the end zone. He had a third down stop on our sideline. He had another big pass breakup on a seam route when he's playing cover 3, where he tips the ball and Daniel almost intercepts it. And then he had the play where he caused the interception. So I know he gave up the 1 fade on a pretty good throw and catch that he can play a little bit better. But for a guy to come in who hasn't played much and win in 3 man-to-man situations, win in a 3 deep zone situation, and then cause an interception, I mean, that was impressive debut for him, and we're really proud of him. And now we got to build on that.
No doubt about it. And you can't, I mean, at corner, you're exposed often. And so you can't win every play. That fade ball was about the clinic film of fade balls. If you could throw them, right? Receiver saves you space. You put it outside shoulder. It was about as good as you could throw it.
Yeah, it was. And he could play it a little bit better early in the down. They made a good throw and catch. We would probably categorize that as an earned play by the offense. But the other ones, I mean, he's in man-to-man with not much help, and he's making the play. And that's really, that's what corners do. If you're going to be a productive, high caliber player at corner, it's not just line up and play cover 2 and reroute people. It's like you got to learn how to win in man-to-man and have the ability and the demeanor mentally to be able to do that. And he showed that right out of the gate.
Yeah, especially with defenses these days, right? The cover 2 zone is over, right? You have to play run support everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so offenses will take advantage of it. If you don't, you got to be able to play man coverage on the outside. Let's flip it and let's talk about the offensive side of the ball now. You mentioned it a little bit. Very efficient on offense, perfect in the red zone with touchdowns, great on third down conversion. Those 2 things alone, just those 2 stats alone, plus the 3 takeaways, that's the recipe for winning football games. Talk about the offense's efficiency. What got you there? How has this offense started to gel now?
Well, I think you look at just I think efficiency is a great word. And you look at, we're moving forward, staying on schedule. The third down conversion rate was extremely high, probably because a lot of those were really manageable, third and short. And we had a couple third and longs. I can remember a couple in particular where then it's the throw and the catch. I mean, Chase had one with Trey Clark. Here's an example of maybe a play that doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Right before we hit the dig to Trey Clark on, I think it was a 3rd and 8 or 10, really good ball, really good catch to keep the drive going. The play before, they had pressured us and Chase got out of trouble and ditched the ball in the flat, didn't take a sack and threw it at the running back's feet. So it's 3rd and 10 as opposed to 3rd and 14. And so little plays like that, great job ditching the ball. It's an incomplete pass, but the next play is a third down conversion. We keep the drive alive, go down and get points. And so those type of plays are what make the difference. But converting on third downs, red zone touchdowns, and no penalties. I think I mentioned that before, but not going backwards. We were going forwards, played clean with our hands, didn't get holding penalties or anything like that. And really, really a good day by a lot of position groups. Receivers spread it out. Chase played very well. Running backs, 2 guys that played extremely well there. And then the O-line obviously contributing, them and the tight ends contributing to all of it.
Yeah, the O-line, that's where it always starts on offense. As a quarterback, that's where it always starts on offense for me. Those guys played extremely well. And by the way, we had Val Daltoso on the broadcast after we had you at the end of the game there, and he got his first network cuss live on air. So, there's a bonus first for Val as well. Yeah, less, right? Exactly. So you and I have talked about confidence all year long, and we've talked about these guys feeling comfortable in where they're at. And I kind of phrased it maybe inarticulately to you after the game. Are we at the point now where that confidence, that comfort level gets the focus in the game and allows players to feel loose? I think I said effort. I didn't mean effort. This team has played hard all year long. But there comes a point when you can gamble a little bit, when you can play freely. And so your team was so young, especially on defense coming into the year, and you'd lost Brett Johnson, you lose Coindang early. A lot of those guys who had that confidence kind of banked. Yeah. Now you have guys who have had the reps, who have made some plays. Do you see that confidence that allows them to play free now? Yeah,
I think more and more. Each week it seems to get better. But even for the veteran guys, now not that they are ever apprehensive, but a little more of an attacking mentality. When the ball's in the air, it's our ball to go get it. It's every time we line up on offense, like we're going to score on this play. And so I think you see that mentality continue to develop. And you mentioned the young guys, like defense. I think there was a couple of times we paused the tape and there's 5 guys out there that are freshmen, and Femi Oladejo and, Ricky Correa is in there, and Ethan and Lou Hearns made a couple really good plays, Nate Richena. So those guys are gaining some confidence the more they play, more comfort, which is, as you know, is important as anything. It's that experience, not only the experience, but the confidence and the mentality that having success brings.
The attacking style, the way you put it, is what I love. As a quarterback, I used to love to play against defenses who were new and young and new schemes where technique was the only thing they were thinking about rather than reading and playing instinctively. And I think once you get to that instinctive point of playing, getting them through over that anxiety of, oh, I've got to play perfect technique to, oh, I've got to play football. It's why Washington's defenses were so good for so long. It's why your secondary, when we had the foursome back there that was so good for so long, because they gamble. And so to see this team come to this point, it's really a nice thing to see. We talked about Garbers. One of the things that I laughed about on the air was him taking that big hit down on the goal line, right? Get the ball out there. Let your receivers make some catches. You don't have to do everything.
Yeah. Are you talking about the one on the touchdown?
Yeah, on the touchdown.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because I asked him after, because he took a huge shot, and he usually does a good job of getting down or diving. And in that instance, you kind of thought he would dive. He had lost. He couldn't. The guy was blocked in his vision, so he didn't see him. He was looking at another defender, kind of bracing for the shot he was going to take from a different guy, and so that's probably what caught him off guard a little bit. But Chase is a tough dude, and he's also a big guy. He's about 230 pounds, and he made some, again, big play with his feet right there, and also threw some really good balls, and also some ones, like I said, you don't really see, but ditching it when he had to ditch it, and. That was it's good to see. I think Chase, is continuing to play better football, and that's what we look for from him and his teammates, regardless if you've played for 4 years or you've only played for 4 plays. That's what we're looking for, is improvement.
Yeah, without a doubt. No, the offense as a whole improving. Jeremiah Hunter, once again, like he showed up in the game. The go route, which I'm sure he got kicked about in meetings, of course, because wide open. But the thing that I'll talk about on that is, I don't know that I've seen a receiver separate like that on a route. Like, he was even, and all of a sudden he was 6 yards beyond the defender for that ball. That was amazing in terms of acceleration.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that makes him different, Mike. And I think you noticed it, and a lot of guys can kind of get even or maybe a step on the DB, but if you look at that play, it's the last 3 to 4 or 5 yards where, whoa, the separation. Now all of a sudden he leaves the guy, and Jeremiah, he makes that play. 99 out of 100 or better, and so there was no need to get on him in the meetings or even on the sideline. Boy, that hurt him, and so at that point it's like, hey man, you got to move on. It happens to the best of them, and he came back from it and had a couple big catches. He had a big 3rd down catch on our sidelines, and he's going to make a lot of good football plays for us.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's a pretty special talent. Anybody that can do that at the Pac-12 level, I don't care what corner you're playing, these guys can all run. You can separate like that. You're going to be pretty special by the time it's all done. Yeah. So now let's move forward. Arizona this week, great win last week versus Oregon State. You carry that with you. You have that attacking mentality. Arizona on a 20-game losing streak. This is one of those games, regardless of how hard you coach, how hard you try, even as a player, how hard you try. It's easy to just get that funk that you can't explain. You work hard, you do everything else. What do you do to protect against that?
I think we really look inward. We can watch the tape, and our players will tell you the same. I understand the streak and all that and their record this year, but when you look at the tape and you watch the players and you look at the individual plays and series and quarters, they're a team that has talent. They have good schemes. They have come up short, but I mean, we're talking 1 touchdown at the Coliseum versus a very talented USC team. We're talking about winning in the second half against Washington, where they came up just short. They're down one score in the fourth quarter to Oregon in Eugene. I mean, they have good players, especially, the perimeter on offense. They're going to be very aggressive on defense. So it's not easy, or it's not hard to watch the tape and gain ultimate respect. In our conference, if you don't show up and play really good football, you'll get beat every weekend. So it's our job to build on what we've done, continue to focus on our own improvement, the areas where we can get better, and go down and try and play our best game of this year this Saturday. That's our motivation each and every week.
And that is so key in sport, to be able to focus on me. I can't control them. I can't control anything else, but to be able to focus on me as a coaching philosophy point here. What do you do? How do you get that? I mean, it's hard in life, right? Be present, focus on me, do what I can do now. How do you do that as a team? How do you get that across to your team?
Well, we're all doing it individually. I mean, we're in this competition to see how good we can individually be each and every day. Can we find that marginal gain on a Tuesday practice? Whether it's my technique, maybe it's a certain concept, maybe it's my pad level. So if I can individually improve, the unit improves, the team improves, so we can play better than we did yesterday or the week before. And so it's really keeping that focus very, very specific and small, and not being distracted or losing sight of, or being distracted by the things that we really don't have any control over, but that don't matter. And so our guys have done a good job of that. I mean, we've had tough stretches this year, and they did a good job then. And it's no different now. We don't change what we're doing. It's focusing on our individual improvement so we can play better football. Even though we had a good win, that's great. We want to, build on that, but we have not arrived, and the players don't think that they've arrived. So we've got to continue to work at it.
Yeah, I don't know that you ever arrive, right? Even over the course of an 11-year pro career, it was like focusing on this rep, just this one, nothing else, focusing on right now. But it's so hard to do, and that was always with young players, getting them into that mentality was really that's the key to winning. That's the key to having success. Getting them into that mentality, getting better this rep right now, getting today.
Yeah, you got it.
So how do you prep for going down to Arizona? Going to be 88, 90 degrees down there, playing here in the rain, everything else.
Yeah.
What kind of considerations do you take in for that?
Hydration, acknowledging it's going to be warm. And I think down there, 80 degrees in Arizona is probably going to feel pretty good. I don't know that the humidity will be all that high. I think it'll be a nice day. Nothing we can do to change the weather here in the Bay Area. It is what it is. And it kind of goes back to focusing on what we can control and what matters. And we don't have control over the weather, but we have control over our preparation, our practice, our meetings and walkthroughs, and our attention to detail. And as we prepare, so we'll focus on that and go down there and look forward to a very competitive, hard-fought game in Tucson.
Well, Coach, as always, thank you for coming on. I will not wish you, best of luck the rest of the season. I'm going to wish you best of luck on this rep. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
For those of you that remember, the motto for my senior football team, the Citrus Bowl team, was one at a time. Bruce Snyder brought that in because the intent of focusing on every individual rep was so key. And it's really, you have to have talent, you have to have dudes, you have to have package, X's and O's. But you really need the focus and the intensity on every single rep at getting better at that rep. If you can build that mindset, if you can build that mentality, then you've really got something going on a football team. And so the cards will play out. It looks to me like this team is doing that. Defensively, especially. Offensively, they put it together this week. I think Billy Musgrave is doing a fantastic job in terms of calling offense. He has been all year long, and I know there's been a lot of people out there that were kind of negative on what Bill's been doing. His play calling has been really good all year long, and I love the way he dials a game. But I think obviously it's showing up more because guys are more comfortable in the package. They understand where they need to be, what they need to do, and how they need to get there. And so they are showing up better. I think we're starting to see some of that young talent we talked about. Jeremiah Hunter really showing up. The running backs, Chris Brooks, Damian Moore really showing up in this game. And so I think we're seeing all the pieces that are in place, learning and executing at a much higher level. They need to carry that going forward. This week versus Arizona, it's going to be another test. Everybody looks at Arizona like, oh, they've already checked it off in the win-loss column. If you ever check off a game in the win-loss column as a player, beforehand, you are about to get your ass handed to you in the Pac-12. So Bears need to stay focused. Coach has the right mentality in terms of keeping them focused on this play, this rep, this snap, and what they can improve on themselves. And so we'll see if you can do it. It's human nature to let it pass, to not show as much intensity, as much focus. Let's see how the Bears do this week in terms of staying dialed in for this game. As always, I appreciate you coming on, listening to this podcast, or watching it if you're watching it on video. You can check out all of our stuff at bearinsider.com. Don't forget, if you want more detailed stuff in terms of X's and O's, football, all of that, you can check out my YouTube channel, eliteathletestv.com, where I will be diagramming, drawing up plays, X's and O's, teaching you about stretches, teaching you about quarterback play. And so it's just a lot more granular in terms of football knowledge. And you can go there and check out some more Cal video clips, and I'll be explaining them in detail so that you have a better knowledge. Until next time, for Bear Insider and the Ultimate Insider Podcast, I am Mike Pawlawski. Go Bears.